there goes Sam. Drive by Sam.
Drive by Sam. See you later.
She's here, but she's not. All right, live from the Selfie Company studios. It's
We are
Mike
here.
and Nick today.
Yes,
It's
sir.
North Wright County Today podcast. Welcome back, everybody. It is the last week of March, and
Yes.
I feel like February was 75 days long,
Yep.
and March was like a week.
Yeah, it went really quick. I served at a fish fry, and
Oh,
of a
yeah,
sudden, and all of a sudden I couldn't believe, like, oh my gosh, March is almost over.
Right.
Yeah.
There's only like 2 fish fries left,
Yes.
and we just started talking about them. I haven't even been to one yet. I
You
gotta make
haven't?
it over. No, I have not been over there yet. Possibly Friday.
Okay.
Well, no. This Friday I have horse dad duties.
Oh,
So yeah.
very important.
Yeah, she's doing cow sorting over in.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, I feel very Minnesotan as I say this. She's going cow sorting over in Now Then, and
Yeah.
she's gonna, be over there.
So cow sorting is using a horse to separate cattle from a herd?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a few places around the state you can do this. One of them is he's actually a barley grower, wheat grower
Okay.
in the Now Then area. Obviously, threshing show.
Yes.
For those of you in the area who know the Now Then threshing show, but the family's also very into riding and horses, and built a beautiful indoor arena.
Yeah.
One of the very few wood ones that I've seen.
Oh, nice.
So beautiful inside. There's a loft where you can watch and everything, and they have cattle, and they bring in they're probably 2-year old
Okay.
and they bring in, they'll probably have 20 head of cattle. They'll bring in 10,
Mm-hmm.
and it's basically you have to sort them by number. So Ellie will be on her horse, and they'll be like, number four. Well, she and her partner, it's usually 2,
Yes.
will go into the one pen, sort out number 4, and then they'll have to drive the cow
Okay.
into the other
pen.
pen. Yeah.
Does she
And
get to
then you
say
keep
things
going
like-
5, 6, 7?
Does she get to say fun things like "get along, doggy"?
She doesn't say that, but they do yip and yell.
Okay,
And,
fun.
it is very, wild Western kind of,
Okay.
cowboy. And it's interesting because my dad, I tell my dad about it, and he's like, yeah, I used to have to do that for real.
Yeah, that was my job in order to get to eat that
I
night.
have to move them from a pasture to another pasture.
Yeah.
And, now that's not as much of a thing, but
Right.
it's cool to celebrate that, and it's fun. So yeah, that's what Ellie gets to do Friday night.
Fun.
No fish for dad, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's all right. Well, like I said, we still got a couple left.
Yeah.
So yeah. Kind of on that note, congratulations go out to all the St. Michael and Albertville, St. Albert kids who
Yes.
got confirmed last week.
Yes.
That was down in St. Paul at the cathedral, and I had not been.
Oh, really?
to the
Down in St.
cathedral.
Paul, right? St. Paul
Yeah,
Cathedral?
yeah. They rotate between the basilicas,
Yes.
which is in Minneapolis, Basilica of St. Mary, and then of course St. Paul Cathedral. And I had been to the Basilica for a couple of weddings,
Okay.
and then of course they do their midnight service on Christmas Eve where they have
Mhm.
the caroling and stuff, which is
Yeah.
gorgeous. But had not been to a service in St. Paul. Super cool.
Yes.
I had a friend comment on my post. He's like, it's the Vatican of Minnesota.
It's gorgeous inside. I was there for a wedding and just really, really pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just an amazing neighborhood with the homes and things
Yes.
like that. Just super cool.
Yeah. I ran the Twin Cities Marathon and the Twin Cities 10 mile, and you shoot right past the cathedral on your finish down
Yeah.
the hill. And but prior to that, you get to run down Summit Avenue. And
Yeah, walking down Summit, that
Yeah.
view is just so cool.
Yeah.
To see St. Paul laid out in front of you, and the famous photo is, or the common photo that you see is the church and state. You
Yeah.
have, the church in the foreground,
The two
state
domes.
capitol in the
Yeah.
background. Both beautiful buildings. And
Yeah.
so again, congratulations to the kids. And St. Michael and Albertville, of course, showed out.
Yeah, as we do.
It is a very large church,
Yes.
and there were a couple other parishes there. I believe Wasika was one.
Okay.
I tell you what, grandmas, grandpas, aunts,
Mhm.
uncles.
Yeah.
I mean, they filled that church, and that is
Yeah.
not an easy task.
No,
So it
big
was
place.
pretty cool. So, all right. Well, we got a cool show today, and we're going to bring the guys in here real soon. We've been talking a few weeks about having Craig and Caleb from
Yes.
Solutions Counseling. Solutions, obviously, one of our main sponsors at North Rat County Today and on North Rat County Today, the podcast. And we're going to have the guys in today to talk a little mental health and talk a little bit about what they offer us as a community.
Yeah.
And the unique, uniqueness of Craig, being here, living here, raising a kid here, and being in this a part of this community, and then offering those sorts of services to people in the community, and just the amazing team that they've built over there, and just a cool business, cool resource to have in our town.
Yeah, and I think the model, and they'll talk about it here, but to be able to see somebody as soon as you can see them at
Right.
their facility versus waiting for a month when you kind of need to talk to somebody right now. That's
Right.
why I called, right?
Yeah. I don't want to, delve too personal, but we had a bit of a kid emergency over the last few days, and it's one of those things where it's like, if you
Yeah.
need it, it's there.
Yeah, very much so.
So super cool. So I'll have you go get the boys, and I'll
back.
dive into our first sponsor here, and we're gonna kick it off with Stellus Health. And, Stellus Health has a podcast, so they invite you to go check that out. It is called Beyond the Checkup. From the latest medical innovations to everyday health tips, you'll enjoy insightful conversations that go beyond the routine checkup. The team of healthcare providers at Stellus Health unpacks a wide range of topics, including midwifery care, mental health, arthritis, foot care, and more. Tune in and transform the way you think about health at stellushealth.com/podcast. Or just go to our website and get to the Stellus Health website from there. It is your go-to podcast for fresh expert perspectives, which is nice because you don't get any expert perspectives on this show.
None.
Yeah. On health and medicine, I tell you what, they've got those clinics in Buffalo and Monticello with same-day appointments, urgent care, located right next to the hospital. So if it's bigger than what they can handle, they can help you out that way. Stellus Health, neighbors caring for neighbors. All right. Welcome, Caleb and Craig, to the show. Don't worry about the many different pictures. We go with the wide angle, so you say hi, everybody. And
Good to say hi.
Oh, they're looking pretty good in the tight angle, though.
yeah. All right. So, Caleb, your last name,
Mall.
Mall, and Craig Rens, both here from Solutions Counseling. So,
Counseling,
how you doing, man?
Good.
Good. Caleb, how you doing?
Not too bad.
March Madness, how's the bracket?
Depends on which one.
Yeah, I was gonna say. There's usually what I think is gonna happen and what I'd like to see happen. Yeah.
I play basketball with a handful of guys a couple days a week. In that bracket, I'm kind of in the 75th percentile, kind of towards
Okay.
the top of the tier. But I've got a fairly large family, nieces and nephews. There's 18 brackets there, and I'm number 2. So
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
there you go.
that one's
Are you
panning out
number
pretty
2?
well.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a
Well,
huge
the-
family you come from.
The family bragging rights is more important anyway,
Oh,
right?
way more
100%.
important.
Yeah, there you go. So that's cool. I have done one with friends up in Fargo, North Dakota for years and years and years and years. And I'm sitting kind of right in the middle of the pack, but if I get the Final Four, we're
Then you're
golden.
good.
My father picked Louisville to win the whole thing,
Ooh.
and they lost the very first game.
Very first day.
Yeah.
And then my mother picked St. John's to win the whole thing, so my parents kind of
second.
Okay.
eliminated themselves
Yeah.
pretty quickly. With
Their days are numbered.
Yep.
You're out. All right, guys. Well,
To the non-athletes out there like me, I'm just gonna be like, all right.
You know what
Yeah.
basketball is, right, Craig?
No, I'm not sure.
You pick by jersey color, location, things like that.
Oh
yeah,
man,
That
no.
team's
places
from
I'd like
Florida.
to visit.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. That team's from Florida. I like Florida.
Why do you have Hawaii winning the whole thing? They're not.
I would too. Absolutely, I'd be convinced.
Good stuff. I'm going to turn you guys up a little bit. So, Craig, kind of walk me through the history of solutions in St. Michael and just
Yeah.
how it came to be and what made you kind of take this venture.
Yeah, well, it's how it came to be was I decided to switch careers back in 2002, I think. I really spent most of my days trying to figure out how to keep people in debt through marketing. Right? At the time, I worked for GM Financial, and it really wasn't fulfilling to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I also had been dealing with some relationship issues personally, and I went to see a therapist, which really wasn't something I wanted to do at the time. I was more convinced that's the way I had to go.
Okay.
And once I got in there, I realized, whoa, there's a lot I need to look at for myself and the things I need to own in my own life, right? And that's
So
something that really
not just
changed.
an owner, also a client.
Also a client.
There you
I've
go.
yeah, no, and that's a big deal for people coming in. I still know what it was like sitting on the other end of the chairs, right, when you were in the waiting room like that. So, but really, that's what kind of got me into it, and my eyes were really open, going, I think there's a lot of stuff wrong with me, right? And it turns out Caleb lets me know every day,
Yeah.
still to this day. But yeah, so that was really what got me to go into the field, and then I went back and switched careers, like I said, and went back to get my master's for that. And from there, we have this whole rigmarole we need to do for another couple of years after master's. And I started working at Central Minnesota Mental Health Center, which is a number of different locations as well. I got Caleb from there as well.
Nice.
And in 2008 is when I decided this was the right time to really start doing this on my own. So, which is something I wanted to do from the get-go.
And that was in the little house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I was thinking about that as I
Yeah.
figured you were going to ask the question. Yeah, it's that little house where I don't know what they are now. Edina Realty used to be across from the Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. So there's a couple rooms upstairs, and the weirdest shower system, which was always really
It's an old
uncomfortable.
building.
If you've
It's an
ever
old
been up there,
building.
there's literally a full shower and bathtub still.
Yeah.
In there, so clients coming in, using the restroom, it was always a little weird, but so I appreciate the clients in the beginning, right? Waiting in the hallway.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was one room up there is what I started with, and then I brought on another person, Steph O'Rourke, at the time, who had passed away a number of years ago now, but and just kind of grew from that one office into the other office upstairs. So we still had the bathroom, right, which was really still the same kind of response from clients, thinking that was pretty
Right.
funny.
Yeah.
And from there, let's see, where did I go from there? From there is when I went over to Greg Zoller's building.
Yes.
And so I don't know if
Yep.
folks know where that is right now. It's State Farm, I think,
Yep.
is in there
Yep.
in our old space.
Our
And-
friend Derek Bray.
yeah.
Eric
Yes.
Brandt is in our
Yep.
shed space.
Yep, so started out and, Greg helped with getting a few offices going in there. So I went from 2 offices to maybe 3, and then I ran out of room. Went from that to like 5 offices in there, and then he cut out the whole back of his building
Right.
for me. And then we ended up with probably about, I think there's like 9 spaces in there for us to be able to do like exam rooms or whatever we want to call it for where we're meeting with clients. And then got too big because at that point we had about 15 providers. We were scheduling them, trying to figure out times to get them in the rooms
Right.
because they were so full. And that's when I decided to pull the trigger. There's a building that we're in now that used to be the original clinic in town back in
Right.
the 80s.
Yep. Doc
And-
Thielen, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Doc Thielen Drive is what we're on, and renovated that entire facility, and that's where we're at today. Now we've got 24 24 or 23 providers?
24 providers.
24 providers out
Well,
there.
it's not Friday yet. It could be 23 by the end of the week.
It could be.
I sure hope not.
You gotta watch it.
That's
yeah.
more work for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, it might be me leaving, not Caleb. Though, so. Yeah, so that's the long story short.
I mean, it's an awesome example of, you know, finding a niche, finding a need in a community,
Yeah.
and really just hitting the nail on the head. I mean,
Yeah,
the response you got initially from the community, just to see that need for mental health and a focus on that. What was your reaction to that? Just kind of as things kept rolling and snowballing and stuff like that. I mean,
surprised.
yeah,
I mean, really, and I still am. I still roll into the parking lot. I don't know. I was talking to Nick about that. The parking lot and just seeing it completely full.
Yeah.
right.
And it's just still crazy to me that we have that many people that come in and seek out mental health services in our community, which again is, we got it on our big sign too, is St. Michael, Albertville really makes it okay, you know, for people to get that kind of support and help, which
Right.
is pretty cool to me, right?
Right.
It's the stigma is what's talked about often with mental health, but honestly, there's a rare stigma in this community. I mean,
Yeah,
I think
it's more of an acceptance.
it is an acceptance.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think, you know, when you and I first met and we talked about the business and things like that, it was you had established in the Zoller building, and then
Yep.
it wasn't long after you were like, "Hey, Mike, we're moving down the road,"
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
and
And you were the patch back then.
and yeah, I think Patch was probably the first story, and then I think once you moved, I think we were in North Wright County today, and stigma was the word that came up, and it was like, you know. It's one of those, we aren't always ahead of the curve out here. We're sometimes a little behind. But, you know, that Drake guy, he's pretty cool. But, you know, this is one of those where, you know, universally in society, mental health kind of turned a corner. And I feel like St. Michael Albertville was on that in the beginning. Like, you know, just that acceptance of it. Seeing the need for it, especially for kids and families, you know, and that's pretty cool. That says a lot about people's attitudes and things like that. So,
Yeah.
Caleb, you can join the party now.
Oh boy.
So, how long you been with the team?
A little over 10 years now, actually.
Yeah. So you've been there for a couple of the moves.
Oh yeah. So I was with Greg Zoller when we were in that building.
Yeah.
I was actually an intern for Craig here. He supervised me, and I like to say taught me everything I know. I might have learned some stuff on my own as well, but
The better stuff.
right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I started as an intern, and then I was also, as Craig had shared earlier, working at Central Minnesota, and I ultimately knew Solutions was going to be my home just because of the environment that I know now both of us together continue to work really hard to, you know, create a place obviously safe for any clients of all demographics to come in, but also for clinicians to have a place where they can come in and do something that they love and that they're passionate about and feel
Yeah.
supported doing it.
Yep, good point.
Yeah. I was going to ask, now, in addition to at the clinic, I think you guys also help out with the schools, do you not?
We
STMA schools?
used to. We did that for
Okay.
years. That was back when started that when was it Jim Bailey?
Yeah,
Yes.
the
Yeah,
superintendent.
Dr.
Yeah.
Dr. Bailey, yeah, he reached out and we started doing it in like one or two of the schools to start providing in-school services, and you know then we ended up looking at doing all the schools for a period of time too. We don't currently do that anymore, but yeah, we were doing that for I don't know how many years was that, like 3 years?
Oh no, it was longer than
Longer?
that.
Boy,
Almost
time
7-8 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I had helped run a program at the Knights Academy. I did
Right.
that for almost
Yeah.
7
Oh,
years.
yeah.
And so COVID kind of got in the way of, I feel like, a lot of that kind of,
That upset a few apple carts.
yes,
Well-
all the in-person stuff.
Yeah.
And
The other thing, speaking of from a school district perspective, obviously my real job is over at ISD 728, for those of you tuning in for the first time. But, you know, what what happened was with COVID was there was additional government funds. Long story, but they were called ESSER funds, and it allowed us to attack that mental health side.
Yeah.
So instead of needing to contract with great firms like Solutions and even your Stelluses or your Alinas or whoever who would have a social worker come in, a lot of districts use that money to hire personnel. And I know we have some SEL staff that do some great work and things like that, and we were able to use those funds to get them started, and then you just have to kind of change your budget to keep them going.
Right.
And we have been able to keep a lot of them on staff. Just recognizing that mental health in education is a huge thing. It's a really big thing, and I'm sure you guys learned that not only through working with the schools, but with the kids and the families that you still work with.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Is it? I mean, I think any parent could tell you, man, I'm glad I was a kid when I was a kid, and I'm not a kid now.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
I don't know if I have a clinical opinion, but a personal opinion. Yeah, absolutely fair.
It just seems like, my priorities when I was 12 were to get home, get a snack, and go take my bike off some sweet jumps. Now, I mean, the kids are just inundated with so much through social media, through their phones. The day kind of never ends.
Athletics,
really, for them.
right?
Yeah, athletics. So, there's bound to be, hurdles that you got to clear there from a mental health standpoint because you're not really shutting down.
Right.
Yeah.
You see kids, a lot of, and you can speak to this too, but a lot of anxiety is what you're describing that comes from a lot of the stressors that we didn't really have, especially, I guess I'm older than you guys, but I mean, I didn't even know we had a school counselor, to be honest with you, at the time.
Right.
So I think we did. But yeah, I mean, it is a lot of pressures for the kids, and that's what typically comes in for like the middle schoolers, I think would be the biggest one. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, I had a lot of different perspectives, even again on the more personal. I mean, I coached my son's basketball team this last year, and I look at it as a fourth grader, what he experienced through basketball. Like, I didn't remember experiencing that until like eighth grade, maybe even ninth grade. I mean, they got tryouts and all these other things, and it's like their young brains, how they wrap their head around those things, especially the kids who don't make the A squad, and now what does that mean? And so there's all these additional supports where I know as I grew up, and I don't think I'm that old, but elementary, middle school, there's a lot of emphasis, like go have fun, break a sweat, get involved, and where now there's so much pressure to win, to be the best, and so it's just different dynamics to have to work through kids.
For sure.
That's crazy. I think back to my days playing soccer. And there was one team, and I was terrible, but I got to play because it was youth sports, right? And now that's just not the case.
And so much that just even in normal development, where you could be terrible at, in fourth, fifth grade, but you might be developing more seventh and eighth grade, and now you see some kids that walk away from, and it's not even just sports. It can be instruments, it can be art, it can be all sorts of things where there's such a pressure to be good right away, and we don't a lot of times have the resources to develop them. So
Caleb, you've kind of taken the business to a new level. You're operating the satellite clinic out in Annandale, Maple Lake. What's that growth been like, and what's it like reaching to a new community?
Well, so, I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. I mean, it's been really exciting. I approached Craig, it would have been a little over, about a year ago now. I grew up in the Annandale community, and I look at just the outreach of mental health and so many places out in that direction. I mean, you have to drive a half an hour, 45 minutes to get any services whatsoever. So I kind of approached Craig with the idea, like, can we bring the services to them, and being I kind of grew up in that community, I felt like I had some connections, figured it'd be a good, place to kind of try it out and expand. And so, and it's gone really well. I mean, we've got, one of our therapists is in the school full time. She's there like 3-4 days in the elementary, middle school, and high school. We've got a couple of our, other therapists who had volunteered to, serve a few hours there as well in the Annandale office itself. And then through a hiring process, we got another therapist. So it's been an awesome thing to be able to bring to that community. And I've gotten a lot of feedback from, people within the community that are really excited to have us there and have seen a lot of great progress, just especially within the schools and some of the dynamics going on there, just having those services and resources.
That's very cool.
Is that anything you pictured when you were in that little house?
No, not at all. I know you're going to have Sandy on at some point here, right, Greniger?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sandy was the one that really pulled me out. There's many people in our community that pulled me out of my shell. I think I was satisfied with the 2-room office at the time, and she tried to get me to start doing different things in the community and get involved in different ways, and that's what really, I think, really helped spur me on, right, to see things beyond just a little 1-room, 2-room house upstairs.
I think everybody in this community probably has a Sandy story.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
So yeah, we definitely have to have her on. I'm trying to work on a date.
We're going to need to turn the mics down, though.
Absolutely.
What mics?
What
Like,
mic?
we
Yeah.
won't need
Yeah.
mics.
Love you, Sandy.
You and I.
It's trying to find a date. She's a little busy.
Yeah.
So, she's just
Everyone wants her time.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can't help but notice we're 4 guys sitting here, and
Yeah.
men's mental health, I think, is one of those things that probably people talk about it, but they don't want to talk about it. But where do you see the biggest growth in that area? Just the
Sure.
guys.
One, I think it's interesting because I run stats. I'm a big stat monster, as Caleb knows, right? With Want to Know, we have, and this does include little kids, but we have about 40% of the people that come in are male, which always surprises me, to be honest with you, for the reasons you're saying, because I think there is so much more, for men, more stigma for it.
Right.
Which again, I think is back to the testament of the community and making it okay for
Right.
people. But with men's mental health, typically what you're seeing is more depression type of symptoms, and for guys, and I think you might have actually mentioned this another time when I was listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
Hey,
Right,
thanks.
where was it Bill Burr talked
Yes.
about there's 2
Yeah.
anger, and I don't
You
remember.
can be angry or you can be fine.
Yeah.
Those are your 2 options as a guy.
Yep.
And,
Yeah.
and for guys, that's what you often see exhibiting at first. Somebody coming in and is really angry about different things, or upset or agitated, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes they're seeking it out on their own. Sometimes they're getting pushed by a spouse or partner to come in.
Yeah.
But that's when you can really help kind of help them kind of see all these different stressors that are impacting them, that are leading to a lot of these feelings, right? And ideally we help them overcome that and learn to cope with it.
The person that cut you off in traffic wasn't in fact actually trying to slight you.
Well,
You're not mad at him. You're mad at your dad.
yeah, that's what it is.
You haven't ridden with Craig, have you?
Yeah.
Noah Khan is big with the kids, and obviously the adults now. He gets radio play, and he always laughs and says he has a little mini therapy sessions through his concert. And before he gets into one of his songs, he goes, "Just know it was your dad's fault."
It's just not blaming your wife, right?
Like, there, I saved you $2,000. But again, 40%.
40%,
That's
yeah.
a huge number,
Yeah.
and it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's not okay for guys to cry, and now it's like, yeah, it's okay for guys to cry and go and do it in your therapist's office.
And it happens every day.
Yeah,
I mean that respectfully. It does though.
it does. I won't lie, I've been there, and that's awesome. I think it's just as important to get those physical checkups and get those mental health checkups, man. And you have
Yeah.
a great team over there that does it. And what's next? I mean, it's got to be an often growing, changing field. I
Yeah.
think there's a large segment of the population that has been living the last 2 or 3 years with an existential sense of dread.
Yeah. We talked about that just the other week. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that in any sort of political way. I'm just saying, like, you know, there's some heavy stuff out there right now.
There's a lot of change going on for people. Yeah, and I don't know, that might be a good one for Caleb, because that's one of the things we were talking about, right, with the political climate and just the sense of existential dread, as Mike put it.
Yep.
I don't know if you have opinions on that and what you're seeing in therapy.
Well, and it's interesting how, you know, and again, not getting political, but just when you start taking like hierarchies and whatnot, and so when we're in positions where we're out of control, right? Like we can't control, it doesn't feel like we can control what our president or our, you know, Congress, or it feels
city
kind of like
council or school board.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I mean. Just go right on down the list.
Yeah.
So now here we sit, and it's like, well, so what do I do other than we sit and worry? And this is even I'm a little biased in this. So much access to social media. What's the truth? What's actual factual and information versus not? And so I find so often that's one of the things I get to work through with clients is how much of that is real and factual versus just your emotions and other things kind of getting the better of you, and then circling it back to what do you have control of?
Right.
Because that's such a, you know, core fundamental piece to anxiety is we're worried because we feel helpless or hopeless and don't know what we can do. And so often it's, well, you start at a micro level. These are the little things you can do. And fortunately, I guess, and I do see this really often, where when I can get them to focus on their day-to-day lives and how they're impacting the people around them, and now you get to see how that's impacting them internally. All of a sudden those symptoms just slowly start to fluff away, if you will, and
dissipate.
You know, like many people, I'm reading Inner Excellence because Antonio Brown read it during the playoffs and he won a Super Bowl. And they talk a lot in that book about having goals that are out of your control.
Right.
And how that if you don't attain those goals, it can make it much, much worse than if you were to perhaps stumble and not make a goal that was within your control and know that you can get back on the horse and try again. You know, and it's just that lack of control, you tend to find yourself in a situation where you're seeking answers. And oftentimes you can find yourself in an echo chamber just reinforcing some of that negative stuff.
That is huge, the echo chamber phenomena. Yep, absolutely. I mean, you see that on social media. I mean, and most people, once they do a search for something that is within their particular leanings, right? I mean, that's what they're going to see and going to get fed back and back and back and back. And so you're not seeing those alternative perspectives, which can help, I think, kind of ground you and understand what reality might be closer to, even if you don't know exactly what that is on a given day.
Yeah, turn it off for a little while and go outside. Like I said,
that's one option.
Touch grass, you know?
The sun is shining.
Take a walk, take a bike ride.
And those are actually great skills that I'm sure Caleb does too. Those are some of the biggest ones. Get outside and take a walk and turn your phone off.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. I was going to talk a little bit about the connection between physical health and mental health. And I know for me personally, I think my brother who does Enneagram stuff would call me a body type. I'm a much better person after I've exercised than I was when I started. Do you guys see a lot of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the first thing that's going to come out of my mouth. Are there medical issues, and what are you doing for your physical health?
Yeah.
Right? When somebody's coming in with that. Physical health is one of the easiest skills, too, that somebody can use to help with anxiety and depression. Pretty much any of the mental health issues that I see come in, right? Getting out there and just working out or taking a walk. I mean, something as simple as taking your dog out can have such huge ramifications on how you're feeling and things you have control over in that moment, right? You have control over, like you said, touching the grass or your feet touching the ground. You have control over your pup that you're walking, right? There's something about that just really, I think, grounds people.
Yeah, one of my favorite pastimes is mountain biking, and I think because you can't think about anything else, there's constantly a rock, a root, a tree, a turn. You know, you have to be completely focused, otherwise you're going to crash. And next thing you know, you've turned your brain off for an hour and a half.
Yep,
And it's wonderful.
The staying in the moment, right? Being
Yes.
present. You know, they always say, like, maybe if I don't explain this right, but anxiety is always worrying about the future, and depression is being stuck in the past. And we want to get you centered in the moment, and that's what you're describing, being focused on the rock.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Or sweet jumps.
Or sweet jumps like you do as a kid.
Well, and to your point on the physical piece of it, I go back to, and this is a 10-year-old study, and I can't say the doctor off the top of my head, but I said he's like the worst thing as a business, owner trying to run a mental health facility. But he literally made the argument, and he had thousands of, basically people who had participated. But his argument was, if you get your heart rate up 20 to 30 minutes a day, if you have a healthy diet and you get 8 hours of sleep every night, 80% of all anxiety and depression related symptoms go away.
Yep. Nutrition.
And yet,
too.
when
Absolutely.
I look at virtually, I would say almost 100% of my clients, I can pick on one of those things and they're not getting it or not doing it.
Yep.
And the few that are, it's usually those extenuating circumstances. They lost a loved one or had to put a dog down or something else that was, so that's why they're in. But otherwise, for the more chronic clients, if they can sustain, a lot of times their physical health, it is amazing how their mental health, they correlate so deeply.
I sleep and exercise well. I do enjoy pizza and tacos. So, 2 out of 3.
Well, I mean,
That's the other prescription is
you gotta exercise to get those pizzas.
That's exactly right. I try to put myself in a caloric deficit before I get to the table is what I try to do. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much, and
you
we're gonna
guys.
have you back. I promise. As long as this thing keeps going, we'll keep visiting with you because there's bound to be more things to talk about. So.
Yeah, we've got plenty for people that just listen all day. We're surprised we can even talk, to be honest with you. You're just usually like, how does that make you feel?
Therapeutic for you? This is
right.
therapeutic, letting you talk?
Tell me more.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me more about that guy. No, thank you guys so much.
thank you.
I appreciate it. It was good to see you. We're gonna let you go, and we'll talk to you soon.
That sounds good.
Perfect.
All
Thank
right.
you for having us on.
All right, we're gonna kick it over to a couple more advertisers. North Wright County Today fans, it is tax season. But when is it? When you are a small business owner or, something like Craig, where it was a small business and now it's like this growing, burgeoning thing. So, man, oh man. But it's, it's time to get that stuff done. April 15th is right around the corner. But like I said, extension is my middle name, so we're not gonna worry about that day. But I tell you what, Peggy Shum's here to help you out in St. Michael and Albertville and the surrounding area. They are located in Town Center in St. Michael. North Wright County Today has been doing their taxes with Peggy for probably a decade or more, and she is the best. You want personal service? You got it. Want to drop it off and not think about it? Peggy and her team can do that too. Located, like I said, in St. Michael, they are prepping 2024 taxes now. Get it done by someone who's local, involved, a lifelong STMA resident, and knows how to get the job done. For more, visit cpapss.com. That's cpapss.com. Or call her up at 763-497-7817. What's up at Deerwood?
Hey, it's been a fun week at the bank. I feel like Garrison Keeler. It's been a good week in Lakewood.
That's a throwback right there.
That's my rejoinder every week.
It's been a quiet week at Lakewood.
No, we've had a ton of fun at the bank. I personally have gotten to do some really fun stuff. It is scholarship season right now.
Nice.
We are open for applications for the Deerwood Bank Scholarship for STMA graduating seniors. Until I believe,
Cam.
Cam Schomer. Haven't seen yours yet. Weird. But until Monday the 31st of March, that window is open. It's been really fun to read the ones that we've gotten so far. There's a lot of really great stories from kids about their community involvement and some of the challenges that they've faced and overcome and some of their educational goals. So it's just super fun to read those every year.
Sweet.
We do have 2 $500 scholarships that we hand out. So super
Nice.
excited to do that.
Nice. And then
I
of
think it's
course
May. Yeah.
you're involved in Rotary, and
Yes.
they do a handful too.
We do. We have much more, I would say, rigorous process in Rotary, where there's a group of people that review them at the bank. I am the decider.
Ah.
So if your story moves me, there you got a good shot.
There you go.
But
Nice.
Rotary does those as well. Speaking of Rotary, I volunteered at the Rotary Fish Fry on Friday.
Yeah.
That was super fun. They did it a little differently this year, no longer a buffet. The wait staff brings out your food, and then the volunteers just run around with tins of fish and make sure your fish is fully loaded on your plate. There was
Nice.
one gentleman, I believe he was having a competition with his brother, and I think he got up to 25 pieces of fish. And so I told him I felt like I was co-champion because I was serving him. Like, yeah, I'm helping out here. It's like providing the assist.
And
Yeah.
these are like little sunfish fillets. then, or
So
what?
these
I
are
mean,
pollock, and they're,
Oh,
I'm going to say
man.
6 inches by an inch and a half. I mean, they're not little. Yeah.
I have thoughts
Yeah.
about how that guy was
Yes,
feeling later
yeah,
that day.
Probably later on, regretting the championship. And then lastly, yesterday, I got to do a tour with the EDA to a place called CAD, which is, for those of you that have been around a long time, on 101 there used to be the big sign that just said beer.
Yep.
Yeah, they're in that building, and CAD stands for Center for Advanced Design, and they do some of the coolest stuff I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It was kind of especially interesting to me because my daughter is majoring in that same type of industry where you're doing industrial design, and big companies come to them and say, hey, we want a product that will do this.
Mm.
Can you design it?
Oh, sweet.
And one of the neatest things they had was they have manufactured, or designed, I should say, the treatment head for a medical device that actually uses ultrasound to kill cells. And they used it on liver cancer patients, 45 out of 45 cancer-free.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it just, I mean, those are the really neat things to see somebody
Yeah.
like actually making a difference in the world through the use of their brains and their hands.
Yeah,
It's really, really neat. I did tell them curing cancer is great, but if you can make people skinny, that's where the real money is.
Right,
If
yeah.
you can get those fat cells. Yeah.
Get the little self-implanted laser in somebody's hips. you
Yes,
know,
yeah. So no, really fun week at the bank. Had a great time. Looking forward to another fun one next week.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's that area where CAD was, of course, that was one of the historical. We could do the Dark Star down memory lane we go again.
Yes.
That old liquor store,
Yeah.
obviously a little bit of controversy there where
Yeah.
it was an arson, a literal crime scene.
Yeah.
with
Yeah. I
arson.
think there was a fire there. Yeah.
Just some struggle between the city and the business owner after
Mhm.
some redevelopment in that area.
Yeah.
And the owner decided, well, here's how I'm going to get out of several $1,000s in taxes. And
Yeah.
obviously that doesn't work.
No.
Please don't try that at home, friends.
Yeah. Fun tie into that, though. One of the guys who owns CAD said that was the place he bought his first 12-pack when he turned 21. So he said it's just kind of neat to be working in the same building.
It is interesting to think. Excuse me. I'm struggling today with the allergies, man.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
starting.
But it is interesting to think that 101 there, that is obviously the eastern edge of St. Michael. For those that don't know, if you go past Fox Hollow and you keep going east on that road, I believe it's County Road 144.
Yep.
If you keep going there, no, pardon me, it's not
36, I
144,
think.
It's 36.
Yeah.
I'm leading you into Rogers the other way. Anyway, keep going there. Hit 101. It used to be a 2-lane road.
Yeah.
And I mean, I talk to people who know that it used to be a gravel road. It's
Yeah.
like, can you imagine Rogers and
Oh my gosh.
Elk River connected by a
gravel
2-lane
road.
gravel road? But here we are. Now
Yeah.
it's 4-lane, 6-lane highway, just to get you to 94 to hurry up and
Yeah,
wait.
pretty cool industrial park over there if you're
Yeah.
into that kind of thing over on Quam Avenue.
And then you have the Indian motorcycle, which was there, which also burned down.
Yeah.
Not arson.
Yeah, that one they trace back to an electrical issue.
Yeah. but now beautiful storage facility there.
Yeah.
So if you need storage, highly recommend looking out there. But yeah, that is kind of a cool little spot. Some really nice businesses in that area as far as like a little lesser known, but they have their niche and they just do good work out
Yeah.
there, man. So yeah, well, cool. CAD, you know, we have CAD classes at Oak River High School for sure.
Yeah.
And we have a lab and things like that, and they do some of that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, this is not what I was doing when I was a
No.
junior.
I hung out with the robotics kids at STMA probably, I'm going to say 3 weeks ago, and they gave us a tour, showed us their robot that they had built and the 3D printers that they have access to now. And I sent a picture of it to my daughter, who's now a junior in college. She said, that's a lot nicer than what we had just
Right.
3 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. It's just cool investment to see.
Yeah.
3D printing is just such a game changer.
Yeah.
It's super cool. I've got, my boss actually over at the school district got into it. And the reason he bought one is he bought a used swimming pool,
Okay.
above ground swimming pool, needed a part for the filter and couldn't find the part, but he found the 3D printing instructions for it
Perfect.
and printed it, and now he's done all these other things.
Oh, that's awesome.
Just like, yeah, saved me a hell of a headache, and I'm like, well, that's pretty cool.
That's great.
Good stuff. I tell you what, man, it's spring. If you don't like the weather, wait 25 minutes and it's going
Yes.
to change on you. But
Yeah. My son has a college ID camp on Friday and Saturday
Ooh.
for soccer, and they're holding it outdoors. I don't think I'm getting out of the car. We'll watch him from the car.
Cam did one sophomore year in Blaine, and it was the late fall one.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. Didn't get out of the car. Poor kids running around. It's a full day. I think it was like a 5-hour camp or something like that. Interviews, things like
I
that.
want to show coach how well I can play, but I can't feel my feet.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Won't know where my fingers are.
Yeah.
Couple of news items. A little new news. Leroy Burning. All the guy does is win. He was again recognized by the Lions. And for those of you that don't know, Albertville Friendly Cindy Days is a Lions undertaking.
Yeah.
And Leroy has been the man behind most of it for many, many years, and received a medal from the International Lions.
Oh,
So
wow.
highest level you can get at the winter banquet in January. And, totally deserved. Leroy, like I said, I've been in the community 20 years almost, and Leroy's been that guy.
Yeah. So involved.
For Friendly City Days, and what an event that is. And of course, that's coming up before we know it.
Yeah. It's usually first weekend in June, right?
Yep. I believe this year it's a little later.
Okay.
I got to look at the dates again,
Yeah.
but we can do that real quick.
You'll know when you smell the cheese curds.
Right on. Another shout out, Landon Robidoux, who just, again, another guy, all he does
All
is
he
win.
does is win.
4-time state champion, and he's headed to do great things. Going to represent Team USA at the All-Star Classic. So he will face either the number 2 seed or the number 3 seed, but he is the number 1 seed, and he will be out in Pennsylvania as Team USA takes on Team Pennsylvania Saturday. That will be online somewhere. I'm not quite sure, whether it's Flow Wrestling or somebody like that will have that. Super cool for him. The Historical Society dropped a great photo the other day of the St. Michael Cafe.
Yeah.
Was that here when you arrived?
No, it was not.
It was gone.
Yeah.
I remember it was probably, it closed in 2003. So before we moved here, but enough where I was, a part of the family.
Yeah.
My ex-wife Jen grew up here, and we had a couple couple meals over at the cafe, and of
Yeah.
course knew the Hoffmeister family and,
Yep.
and things like that. And just one of those little gems. And what's cool now is seeing new versions of the St. Michael Cafe pop up
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
You know, we have homegrown, which I think maybe is kind of the closest to bringing that back with the breakfast and the
Yep.
things like that. But also Main Street and BK. And the fact that they're
Yes.
in that area is really cool to me.
Yeah, I agree. That's and for homegrown to be in a historic building that they
Right.
were able to salvage kind of gives it that vibe as well. I know a lot of my older customers used to talk about the cafe, and there was a table of knowledge,
Right. Yeah.
where you had a lot of the fellas who would tell you lots of things, very few of them true, but you learned a lot of stuff. I believe they said you got your PhD because it got piled higher and deeper.
I remember that move to Patty J's.
Yes.
For those of you that remember Patty J's,
Yep.
the table of knowledge would be over there.
Yep. Yeah, that was
And,
after JR said closed. Yeah.
Yep. I remember. JR's was also a host for that. It's fun. But now the coffee clutch seems to has moved to home. I see a lot of them at homegrown.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Cool. Excuse me. I am struggling with
Yeah.
the
It's spring sports season.
right on.
You're gonna have that stuffy nose.
The other one I wanted to get to before we sign off, because we had a good conversation with
We
those
did.
guys. The tree sale is going on at Wright Soil and Water Conservation District. So tree seedlings come in bundles of 25. I tell you what, if you've got land and want to, put up a little shelter line or whatever, even if the deer eat half of them, you still got, 75 trees you could grab and probably make a little something.
Oh yeah. Yeah. My neighbor's backyard is all tree sale trees.
Yeah.
And she put in, I think, 5, and now, it's 20 years later, I guess now. Really tall trees, really beautiful shade.
Yeah.
Just wonderful back there.
It's fun being able to live in a neighborhood and see that growth. And, I go back to I grew up in South Dakota in a neighborhood.
You didn't have trees.
Plenty of trees. Come on. I was in the River Valley. That's
Yeah.
why.
Yeah.
It's North Dakota that doesn't have any
Yeah, there you go. The state trees, the telephone pole.
construction cone. Anyway, the trees that my family planted are now, they've been in the house 55 years.
Yeah.
And you can't get your arms around them.
Right.
Like, they're just ginormous, these
Yeah.
huge ash trees. And fortunately, I've been able to dodge that ash borer
Yeah, that's
bug
nice.
and just have these beautiful canopies of ash trees. But you just kind of wonder how long that'll last.
Yeah.
So I tell you what, if you've got an event or something that we want to mention on the podcast, hit us on Facebook. North Wright County Today is on Facebook, and that's where I put all the links to the podcast. The podcast is on YouTube and Spotify. Please go there and subscribe so you know when we post. We usually try to post Thursday night, get everything up. Tonight we'll be watching a little hoop and
Yes.
and editing the podcast.
And I think
men's and women's.
first indoor track meet for the high schools tonight as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
We just got done with hockey. We're going
know.
into track. All
I
right.
know. I missed track season. I had a great coach, pretty blunt. Asked him for advice in my first race. He said, "Run hard, turn left." And then he added, "Dummy."
I'm gonna shout out Dan, the Common Man Cole, with this one. But I thought about doing golf in high school, and my coach said, "Why don't you take 2 weeks off and then quit?"
That might be good advice for.
Joke's on him. 35 years later, I'm still playing.
That's right. Speaking of that, sneaking away to Arizona this weekend with
Yeah.
my wife, and I got some time booked on the
Got a
course.
tee time.
Yeah, I got
There
a
you
tee
go.
time.
There you go. Earliest first round ever.
No, this will be actually Sunday evening. Well, look at me, I'm old. 3:30 in the afternoon. I'm calling it evening. But then we'll get some.
Well, it's-
we'll get
It's
some dinner
Arizona.
after.
You better have dinner by 5.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. Big key in Arizona. If you hit it into the OB, just leave it.
Yeah, don't go.
Don't go.
I mean, scorpions, snakes.
Scorpions,
like,
snakes, spiders.
it's $1.25 golf ball.
I know. That's why I hit the Kirklands.
Right, exactly. Hey, one other thing I want to get to before we say goodbye is Hoagland bus service up in Monticello has been kind of snitching on some of you guys, but in a good way. They've been posting pictures from their bus cams of people blowing the red lights and the stop signs.
Don't do that.
Yeah, come on now. And I'm not just shouting at Monticello. Anybody, if you're on a 2-lane road and that sign comes out, you got to stop.
Mhm.
Okay. I don't want you to live with the tragedy of hitting a kid.
Yeah.
Or worse, taking a life. And there's some close calls that have been caught on video, and some of these pictures here too. It's scary.
Well, and at most, it's a 10 to 15 second delay.
Right.
Just
believe me, the kids want to get on the bus just
Yeah.
as fast as you want to get around the bus.
Yes,
Like
yeah.
some.
They might not want to go where the bus is
There's a
taking them.
couple of kids in my neighborhood that could pick it up a little, like walk with your feet up off the ground. Don't shuffle. But other
But yeah,
than
when that light's red, man,
you got
just sit tight.
Yeah, just don't do it. And the county is watching out for it. They're issuing tickets, and now pretty soon we're gonna have camera certified tickets.
Yep.
So all you St. Michael people who love to run that light at 35 and 19, you know who you are. There's going to be cameras there, and they'll get you.
Yeah.
So
I took a.
we could do a whole podcast.
We
on
could.
this, though.
We could. I took a soccer trip to Kansas City and back for a tournament many years ago, and then I got a love letter from the city of Des Moines.
Ooh.
About 2 weeks later, it was. I feel it was a little predatory. It goes from 70 to 60 back up to 70 in the span of, I don't know, probably 1,000 feet. And
It's the Hanover situation.
Yeah, so I was doing 72, never took my foot off the gas. Now I'm doing 72 and a 60 for about 1,000 feet. And that's where the camera is. Yeah. Thank you, Des Moines.
That's the Iowa fundraiser.
They saw it was a Minnesota plate, and they're like, got him.
We got him.
Got him.
We got him. Yeah, there's a little stretch in Hanover there as you're coming from 19 into town where it slows down to 40.
Yep.
If you don't catch yourself. But
Yep.
Tell you what, exciting. We'll close on this. Exciting things happening in Hanover.
Yes.
That river side area with the I'm gonna forget the name of the restaurant that they're redoing.
The Hilltop.
The Bob Dylan Hangout.
Yeah, the Hilltop.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Home of the Hilltop Burger.
Yeah.
Cool to see that finally.
Moving forward. Yeah.
I mean, that was in the back of my mind for years. I was like, man, wouldn't it be fun to operate a brewery there?
Yes.
But it looks like we're going to have a nice restaurant there.
Yeah.
And then, of course, with the Big Bore expanding.
Yeah, that was so cool. I was at an event 2
wow.
weeks ago there, and that is such a neat space now. With so if it's cold outside, they got the big thick curtains that come down and heaters in there. If it's nice outside, those go up. Shane Martin happened to be playing that evening. So
saw Shane at BK Tap House.
Yeah, it was a great night. I was there for a chamber event.
Sweet.
Yeah, and then with the River Inn now, kind of taking some of what were their temporary structures through COVID and have put in some permanent structures.
Right.
So there's some outdoor dining there. Really a nice situation.
Well, and the bar that they bought in the building next door, or put in the building that they bought next door.
Yeah.
Just fantastic stuff down in Hanover, and I kind of feel like it's one of our sister communities too. So pop down there and support those businesses who are really investing in the community, which is cool.
Yeah.
They're going to go through a little pain this summer, but if you drive the speed limit and go down that river road and go into town that way, you'll be just fine.
Oh yeah.
So All right, guys, that's an hour. We
Hey, way to go.
nailed that.
Nice.
I tell you what, we will be back next week, and I've got to look at the schedule and get back to you. We'll put it in the comments on the post of who we got next week.
I'll be here.
Nick will be here. I'll be here. Sam, who we missed today, no
Yeah.
Sam today, but it was kind of a guys' hangout today with the boys from Solutions. Sam was out today. Hopes to be back next week, but she's also going to be traveling some. So
Yeah.
we're going to do. It's going to be. You're going to have to get used to Nick and me
Yep.
for a little while, but
Yeah.
we're not that bad. So thanks everybody. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks.